we're going to get right into it. Justin's on his way, but my guest, Jon Alba from Spectrum Sports in Orlando, Tampa, he's got a bunch of stuff going on, so we're going to get him on early so he can get off and finish up what he's doing. And he's grateful to him for giving us his time. He was there at AEW All Out live in person there in Jacksonville, so it'll be good to get a first-hand perspective about what happened on Saturday night. So give me 1 second.
What's up, my man? How are you?
What's up, John? How you doing, bud?
I'm well. I really appreciate you
Dude.
not just inviting me on, but also being flexible.
No problem, man. You got a lot of stuff going. I'm glad you can make it and give us some of your time. You were at AEW in person on Saturday, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's we're gonna talk about that. So I'm gonna do the intro. We'll get going. My co-host will join as soon as he gets here, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah,
all right?
Sure. Sounds good, man.
All right.
If we can be done by like around 9 my time, that would be awesome.
That's easy. That's easy.
Okay.
This won't take more than this probably won't take more than 20 minutes. 15, 20.
Fantastic. Sounds good, man.
All right. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Super ACH, and you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
When they're not covering the sports world, they're talking about the world of professional wrestling.
It's Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Now, with Justin Simmons, here's Stu Myrick.
It is Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick. Justin the Smash Simmons will join me here in just a bit. He is on his way. But we're wanting to recap AEW All Out, a very interesting pay-per-view, I guess is the best way to say it. And to help me do that right now, joining me on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline, he is the great sports reporter from Spectrum Sports 360 in the Central Florida area, Orlando, Tampa. He is also the host of the Living the Gimmick podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. It is our good friend Jon Alba. Follow him on Twitter at Jon Alba. John, how are things in Central Florida?
I didn't even need to remind you of how to intro. I mean, you nailed it there. I don't know if you've got my resume on hand.
Done this a few times, so we
Attention
figured this.
detail is important. So
That's
I'm
right.
doing well, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, man, I'm glad you can make some time for us. So you were there live in Jacksonville at Daly's Place. Just start off, just overall reaction to everything you saw Saturday night.
That's a loaded question. There was a lot of things that I saw on Saturday night. I guess the first thing I'll say is I was a bit hesitant to go to the event in person because obviously we're in the middle of a global pandemic right now. But after speaking with someone in AEW and asking Tony Khan specifically on the pre-show conference call about what their COVID protocols were, I felt it would be safe to give it a shot, and I went up there. And I was really impressed. AEW really had everything together nicely. Everyone in line was socially distanced to get in. Everyone was wearing a mask. There were multiple signs enforcing that. There were multiple people enforcing that. Even in the bathroom, they were limiting how many people could go, and they had someone inside the bathroom ensuring that people were washing their hands. So, you're going the extra mile there. And then as far as seating, you had your individual pods, then you had at least 3 seats, if not more, separating you from another group of individuals, and then there was an open row between each row. So I really thought everyone did a nice job, and that was my first initial impression. As for the show itself, I've been in Florida for 2 years, and I can confidently say that was the most humid event I have ever covered in any form of sports or entertainment, whatever it may be, and I think that had a tangible effect on the show, alongside the Matt Hardy situation.
Right. Well, and that was mentioned a lot when Matt Sydal slipped off the rope when he was trying to hit his shooting star, during the Battle Royal that it was, the ropes were sweaty, and I'd heard that it was incredibly humid that night there in Jacksonville. You mentioned Matt Hardy. Let's get right into that. The Matt Hardy coming off that scissor lift, landing, it looked like he overshot the table with Sammy Guevara and landed on the concrete, may or may not have banged his head and concussed himself. What did you see, and what was the reaction in the crowd and in person there?
I took the air out of the building, and we all saw it happen. I mean, there's no disputing that he hit his head on concrete. What's being disputed is whether or not he was actually concussed. He suffered some sort of head injury. He was, as we like to say in the sports world, out on his feet. And that was painfully obvious. They made the decision to stop the match, and then magically a couple minutes later he was cleared. And they went to the finish, and I had seen the little platform thing that they set up, and I figured that was for the finish of this match. I figured that they were going to climb the scaffolding because it was set up right underneath it. I thought that was a big-time mistake after what happened with Matt. And if they had to continue, which I did not think they had to, but if they had to continue, maybe he should have just thrown Sammy off the stage or something and not risked climbing all the way up there. I thought that was very dangerous. This was something that was a major point of contention on the AEW post-call with Tony Khan. He had an opening statement on it. Justin Barrasso, Sports Illustrated, asked about it. I asked about it. There were a couple others who asked about it. It was a big-time deal, and it's garnered a lot of controversy, but it had a tangible effect on the audience reaction to this show, and I think it had an effect on the people watching at home.
I will say that. I will say it did. It absolutely did. I was sitting here in Central Texas watching it, and the show itself, it just felt a little off, but when that happened, it seemed like it went even more off. And what did you make of TK's, explanation, what he has said since, the statements he has made? What have you made of those?
Well, I think that AEW followed its protocol, and I don't think they lied about that. Like, I think they followed their protocol, and they found out that in their mind he was not concussed. Apparently he was released from the hospital, and they felt comfortable doing that. Obviously Matt's wife is arguing differently, but if they followed their protocol, then they were going by their rules. But the reality is we're in a time now where head injuries are supposed to be taken more seriously than ever, right? So even if he's not concussed, it was very clear that he was not all there. The match could have stopped. I think what happened was you had someone who was still a relatively new promoter in Tony Khan, who understood that he was trying to tell a story where they had a stipulation set that Matt Hardy had to leave the company if he lost. So they kind of panicked on the fly and said, okay, well, we just got to get to the end of this. That's why they went right to the finish. And I think he was thinking about the well-being of Matt Hardy, but in the heat of the moment, he got caught up and he made the wrong decision. And I'm not afraid to say they made the wrong decision. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I think that's the reality. And I think most people would agree on that. And you just hope that it's a learning experience and that you can move on from there. I don't think Tony Khan is a bad guy by any means. And it's really crazy because I was actually talking to Matt Hardy a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the Sammy Guevara throwing of the chair that opened him up the hard way a few weeks back, about a month ago on Dynamite. And Matt had said to me, the one thing he worries about at this point in his career is head trauma. So when you see something like this happen, it makes you think more than anything else, A, I hope this guy's long-term history is okay, and B, have we seen the last of him in a ring?
That's something that crossed my mind as well. I mean, he's getting close to 30 years in the business. He's getting up in, his late 40s with all the bumps that he has taken, both in his solo career and tag team with his brother Jeff. You got to imagine eventually that's got to cross his mind, and I can understand Rebby getting upset. She's his wife. She wants the best for him. She wants him to be there to remember their kids' names and such. I get that. I know that she can be fiery at times, and it's not the first time that she has had an opinion on a promoter. Not to say it wasn't wrong, but like you said, I think I agree with you. I think Tony, this was a mistake. It was, but luckily, at least as far as we know, Matt's okay. He'll be on Dynamite tomorrow night. We record this on Tuesday night, so he will be on Dynamite. So learn the lesson, get better. Especially Tony Khan being involved with both, in soccer with the Premier League and in the NFL with the Jaguars. You would think, they should be able to take something from both of those leagues as far as maybe improving their concussion protocols.
And I think that's what people were kind of expecting, that as someone who has done work with concussion protocols in the NFL, that this might have been a little more fluid. And again, according to them, Matt Hardy wasn't concussed, but it was clear that he suffered some sort of head injury, and that you got to be careful, especially seeing some of the stuff that we've seen in New Japan with guys like Kenta and Shibata. You just have to be careful. And I believe you were on the pre-show conference call. I could be wrong about that, but Tony Khan even mentioned being close friends with Chris Nowinski, who is renowned for his concussion work and head trauma work. So there's a bit of a degree of irony in that, but I just hope it's a learning experience for everyone.
Yes, I do remember that comment, and I see Chris every year during Super Bowl week. He's usually on Radio Row, promoting the work that he's doing with Harvard and their research towards head injuries and such. So hopefully maybe Tony can talk to Chris and maybe find out more, and maybe talk to them a little more, and maybe grow it some more. We're talking with Jon Alba from Spectrum Sports 360 in Orlando and Tampa. He was there in person for AEW All Out. As far as the rest of the show, was I at least somewhat accurate in saying the entire show, taking that away, but the entire show felt just a step off?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Again, I can't stress this enough. The heat was oppressive. I think that had a tangible effect on both the performers and the audience. Even though it was a limited audience, I do feel like it was something that played a role in how the show came off. And it was a really long show. And you had fans that had been out there since 4 o'clock who were staying until 11:30. We're talking WrestleMania length there.
You're right. I mean, I was having flashbacks. We had the old Wrestle Circus promotion here in Austin, and they would do the 4 or 5 hour shows live, and you could feel the fans kind of fading. And in this one, for AEW, this seemed excessively long. I think it clocked in just over 4 hours. Am I not right?
Yeah, and
plus the pre-show.
And they opened with a cinematic match too.
Right. So it just felt like it dragged a little bit. I think there could have been at least 2 or 3 matches that could have gone shorter and still told the same story, but be that as it may. In your mind, what was the match of the night?
I thought the main event was just exceptional. I thought it was like the best blend of Jon Moxley that we've seen yet in AEW, a combination of brawling and just mat wrestling. MJF continues to prove he is the future of the industry and has a very high standard that he has set. I thought the tag match for the titles told a really great story. It was a little long, especially in the heat, but I think in front of 15,000 fans in an arena, that match would come off even better than it did on this show. I think the stuff they're doing with the Elite and Hangman Page and Kenny Omega especially has been really compelling, and FTR played the perfect role in facilitating that story. And I thought the women's match was the best women's match that AEW has had so far. Thunder Rosa and Hikaru Shida were in a death spot on that card coming off of the Matt Hardy injury. And they showed up and showed out, and Thunder Rosa proved that she's got copious amounts of it. So, yeah, I think for me, the main event was my favorite, followed by probably the women's match and then the tag match.
I have to agree with you. Thunder Rosa, of course, maybe a little biased because she lives here in the area, but
yes, she does.
And I had a chance to talk with her at a wrestling event in in Dallas Fort Worth the week before. I know how excited she was to appear on AEW and show up there with the NWA Women's World Championship and show what she can do. And I know from everything I've read and seen, and from colleagues like yourself and others, it sounds like Thunder Rosa may have earned her a spot whenever she's ready.
Yeah, I mean, there's some contractual things that have to be worked out because, again, she still is under contract with NWA. I don't know what's going to happen with NWA, but I think Tony Khan would certainly love to bring her in should she ever become available.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You mentioned the FTR and Paige and Omega match and the stuff with the Young Bucks, and I think this is like multi-layered storytelling at its finest. It is, I think a lot of people at the beginning expected Paige to turn heel. Now we're seeing it looks like it's going to be Omega that turns heel instead. And it looks like maybe we are, at least for now, have seen the last of the Elite as a cohesive group. How do you see this playing out over the next, weeks and months?
See, it's so funny you say that because I do think a lot of people did think that it was going to be Paige that would be turning heel, but pretty much from the start, I've thought this would be Omega that would be the one turning because of the way that Hangman started to get over in front of crowds with all the cowboy stuff and the drinking and everything. He started to get over big time, and I was thinking to myself, you got to harness that. And he was still pretty darn over even in front of limited amount of fans on Saturday. Kenny, have you ever watched Kenny wrestle in person?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've been to a few of the AEW events and a couple other events.
He is just – it's like watching LeBron James wrestle, The guy has such presence and controls the ring when he is in there. And every little action makes sense. And then you throw him in there with the guys like FTR who just, again, making every little thing count at a minuscule level even. I just thought the storytelling was so perfect here. And there's a big-time, long-term story to be told in Kenny Omega eventually winning the title as a heel, and then one day Hangman being the babyface that has to take him on.
Would you be surprised if this story, this arc, takes us all the way to All Out 2021?
I think it could take us there. It could take us even beyond that for all we know. I think Omega is the one who takes the title off of Jon Moxley ultimately, and eventually Hangman will have to climb his way to get to that point to face Kenny, and I think that's the way that you go here.
Yeah, we're talking with Jon Alba from Spectrum Sports 360. Follow him on Twitter at Jon Alba as my co-host. Justin Smash Simmons joins us. Hello, Justin.
How's it going, y'all? Hey, John, has Stu already kind of manifested his, how do I say this, his ideology on faces and heels nowadays to you by any chance?
No, he is not.
Okay, well, how do you feel about the possibility of another heel champion taking the reins in AEW? If Omega is the one that does hold the title as a heel as the storyline progresses, as you just stated.
Right. I mean, I have no issues with that because every great heel sets up an up-and-coming babyface, right? So someone has to chase your top heel, and who better than Hangman Page to do that, and who better to serve as the foil than Kenny Omega? I have an issue with that, and plus Jon Moxley plays such a unique role at the top of the card that I think he and Omega have established they have a history, and Moxley can adapt to a different style based on what their dynamic calls for.
Plus, you got to imagine Moxley is going to need time off eventually to take care of whatever his commitment is as the IWGP United States heavyweight champion. Right now, as we speak, Kenta has that shot. We will see on Friday night if he keeps that or if Jeff Cobb wins that from him. But give me another match or two that kind of caught your eye and made your night, I guess.
I think, like I said, I thought the main event was just exceptional. But on the rest of the card, the match between the Bucks and Jurassic Express I thought was a little sloppy at times, but the back half of it really came together, and they told, just again, like you were saying, this layered storytelling has really just made some of these guys come off as stars. And I watched Jungle Boy, and all I can think is this guy is going to be at the very top of the card one day. And he's got every little thing that you could possibly want. And the way that they put him away, like they were putting Old Yeller away, and the 3 different finishers they hit on him, really effective storytelling.
Yeah, you hear it all the time. You hear it from, whether it's the commentary team or others, how much upside Jungle Boy has and what his future could look like in AEW, becoming a top wrestling star, not just for that company, but in the world as a whole. Now, I'm going to claim a little personal bias. I was a fan for the match with Dark Order and Dustin Rhodes et al., and especially with our boy Dustin, our honorary co-host, getting the roll-up pin. I mean, that was just a match just for the sake of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, listen, this was a very good 8-man tag. It was way too long on this card.
It was.
And I thought that it would have been much more effective on Dynamite had they done it there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Just because the show was just kind of dragging a little bit, and people wanted to see the big-time matches, including the Mimosa Mayhem stuff. And I just felt like this was kind of thrown on the card because of that, but it was a good match. And I thought the promo that Dustin cut afterwards was excellent. So, yeah, I mean, Dark Order needs some wins. I will say that. But I guess Colt Cabana is kind of like fake Dark Order. So that's kind of the ideology there. Right.
Well, and that's kind of the other thing is, Brody Lee gets on Colt Cabana because he's the one that got rolled up. Was this a momentary Brody Lee losing his cool and Colt still his favorite son, or are we going to start to see that story play out where Colt Cabana realizes the error of his ways?
Yeah, I think Colt Cabana is probably going to do that. And if you pay attention to everything they do with the Dark Order on being the Elite, they are the best part of that show. And I wish that we got some of that on TV, because there's some really great character stuff they do, especially with my boy John Silver, who I think just steals the show every single week. And I was very happy when he was in the pre-show match that the crowd started chanting, "We want Chili's," because I think they've really done an awesome job with him. And I wish we got to see more of that with the Dark Order.
He and Alex Reynolds really have made the best of their situation and have become, stars themselves for that stuff.
Well, John, you bring up an interesting point that we bring up quite frequently on this show, and I like to have your thoughts about this. How could it feels like they do put too much of their storytelling on BTE, and you really would have to make that extra commitment to watch it. How could they rectify the situation on television to integrate those stories that come from BTE that are so imperative to their storytelling and put that on television as well within their time constraints?
Show a quick clip, a minute. A minute's not going to hurt you. Just recapping that or reinforcing the stories on commentary. I think those are all things that you can do, because the Dark Order would have so much more depth to them if people realize that. This Kenny Omega stuff that they're doing, especially, they've been pushing so hard on BTE. I think you would benefit greatly from having some sort of allusion to that on television. I get it. It's a wink and a nod with what they do with BTE, but I do think it's important to put that stuff in front of their audience on television.
Yeah, I agree. There's only so much. I know you only got 2 hours, but not every fan is going to follow everything they do on YouTube. So they've got to find a way to work that into those 2 hours. Or if maybe what this alleged second show maybe that's what this becomes is, something of a feeder or something where you can recap stuff like that to feed into Dynamite. I mean, they've got to figure out the solution either way. Jon Alba from Spectrum Sports 360 in the Orlando, Tampa area. Follow him on Twitter at Jon Alba. Catch all of his stuff. Make sure you get his Living the Gimmick podcast wherever you find your podcast. John, man, thank you so much for giving us your time. I know you're busy. By the way, how's you and your family? How's everybody doing there down in Central Florida during this crazy time?
Yeah, well, all my family is up in New Jersey, originally from the tri-state area up there, and they're all doing all right. Things are much better there. It was really bad here in Florida for a while, but I got a chance to really extensively cover the NBA and MLS bubbles that came down here, which was really a great experience. I will say it has improved significantly since we last spoke, thankfully. Obviously, you saw some of the stuff that happened with WWE and their COVID protocols, but I think we're just happy to see that people are running more safely now, and they've got the Thunderdome at Amway, and you know what? You take what you can get, and as long as everyone feels safe, that's the most important thing.
That's true. Jon Alba, Spectrum Sports 360, Orlando, Tampa area. Thanks so much, man. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, guys.
All right, that was perfect. That gets you out in time?
Yeah, oh yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I'm working on a feature on a MMA fighter that's airing tomorrow, and it's like a kind of deep story about overcoming some tragedy. So
Awesome.
I'm trying to put some effort into it,
Well, I tell you what, when you get it, send me the link. I'll have our MMA guys
Cool.
featured on their show.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you, guys, and definitely send me this when you have this ready to roll. And I appreciate the time, and I'm always down to help out and chat.
Sounds good, man. Be safe, be well. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Later, John.
Jon Alba, they're on site giving us all the good perspective, being in person there at Daly's Place in Jacksonville. We're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we're going to switch gears from AEW to the latest in WWE. We got people turning on people. We got family beating somebody up with kendo sticks to within an inch of their life. And that group spoke. You'll hear it next. Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. There we go.
How's it going?
Nice. It's going. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
I mean, all things considered.
Yeah, John, as you heard, John's got to do the story. He's working on that story about the MMA fighter for Spectrum Sports there in Central Florida. So we're glad he was able to make time for us being there in person. I did watch AEW. I did not stay up long enough for the post media scrum. I was barely hanging on for the main event.
A little long card, huh?
Little bit. It was. This was getting WWE links about 4 hours. And I think by the time the post-event media scrum happened, they had it originally scheduled for 10:30, which 10:30 p.m. Central.
Well,
it didn't happen for about another hour or more after that.
I feel like you have to take into account what happened to Matt Hardy during the card.
And we talked about that extensively.
Because that was pretty scary.
It was very scary.
Not just for him, but for Sammy, too, with the way he fell on his knee. I was just like, oh, well, hopefully he's okay, because that could have been a really serious injury to, the old vet and the up-and-comer. That wouldn't have been any fun.
Absolutely. So.
But I'm assuming you did say that Sheeta and Thunder Rosa stole the show, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what everybody was talking about on Twitter after this entire pay-per-view.
Right. You were. I think we were talking about it as you walked in. He put the main event first, and then Sheeta and Thunder Rosa second.
I
So,
disagree.
You think flip-flop?
Theirs was the best.
You know, and I thought both of them were great. I think the Moxley MJF match did exactly what it was supposed to. I will say I was a tiny bit surprised that Moxley kept, but you know, it made sense the way they did it. Did you like the wink and a nod paradigm shift? That was kind of funny. I liked that. That was pretty funny.
I just don't know how I feel about having 2 solid babyface wins at the very end of the card. I was like, that's too joyous for me. I like a little bit more, pragmatic.
You're one of those guys.
I think there needs to be a little bit more balance.
You probably hated last night on Raw then.
No, Cedric Alexander turned heel.
No, the end of Raw. When the Mysterios were beating the snot out of Murphy.
Oh, but that was just like...
That was probably...
It would make more sense if it was Seth, but I guess this is...
Well, it's the next best thing.
It's like seventh degree Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, but it still worked. It worked perfectly. It's probably one of the best endings to Raw we've seen in a while. I mean, to see Ray's wife take the kendo stick and whack Murphy. That was just it was so good. That was you couldn't help but. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. So, but yeah, our thanks to Jon Alba for joining us here as I switch back. There we go. So let's get going with the second segment.
It's the mayor of Slamtown, WWE superstar John Morrison, and you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons.
I still think it's funny that rejoin you got when he was there the first time around.
It was one of the first Wrestle Circus. He was with Lucha Underground at the time. He was what was it, Johnny Mundo?
I know, but now it's like you've used like all his entrance themes at this point
on
this show.
We try.
At one point.
Well, he keeps changing, so
that's good. Evolution.
When he leaves and goes to AEW, we'll use that one if he does that. So we'll see what Taya says about that. Speaking of WWE, it's been an interesting few days. We've had teams split up. We've had people turn on people. We've had just about everything. First of all, Bayley, Sasha, finally the unit, the cohesive unit, the golden role models are finally no more.
It is quite sad because it was a good storyline for them.
I gotta admit, I'm kind of with you.
They work well as a tag team.
You knew it was coming.
Well, yes.
But it feels like it was a little soon.
Well, obviously everything had to change for their storylines. One, Corona into this storyline, and then who was going to be available afterward to wrestle for the championship. And nobody had the idea of Asuka becoming the MVP, and then there's no Charlotte, so they were going to have to carry the shows, and they've done so very well, and now they're going to have to see what they can do as singles competitors, but we talk like they aren't already on the top of the card as it is for them.
True. Oh, absolutely. But I fully expect that to be at least co-main event for WrestleMania 37.
This is what the Rockers were originally supposed to give us. So now Sasha can finally have an extended run with the title if they decide to go that route, because she has never had a successful title defense.
No, she has not. And has she held the SmackDown title?
Yes.
Okay.
But she loses it right after.
I know she's lost.
She wins it.
She never has successful title defense. So we'll see what happens. What did you make of Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman's promo on SmackDown?
Awesome.
It was awesome. Do you now agree that they're heels?
No. They're just there to take names.
Okay, right, sure, whatever. Interesting that Jey Uso wins the 4-way to.
But this is what everybody always wants. They want this unpredictability.
No, I'm not complaining about it. I thought it was good. And if this means we save Big E for a bigger moment, hey, I'm good for it.
I would think so. And this can potentially be a big moment for the Usos because it calls to that lineage.
True.
Of the fact that they are a family.
True.
So like how you see the Hurt Business, you could possibly see a faction for them, even if he doesn't win the title, which it doesn't seem like he would, but this would make perfect sense for them to join forces.
True. I think
could you imagine a stable?
Roman and the Usos?
With
Heyman?
Come on, man. That's
I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool. I don't know if that's where they're going. I'll be honest.
They would be the top of the card.
I know, but I'm just saying I'm not sure that's where they're going with it.
Well,
I don't know where it is, but I just don't know.
I think they have to decide.
It would be. I think that'd be great. I think it'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it would be a terrific idea.
I'm not going to hold my breath on it. Let's put it that way. The Mysterio family needs to go out for batting practice for one of those. You maybe go find the Padres, see if they can get in the lineup or something. They were beating the ever loving mess out of. Don't call him Buddy Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to see that happen. It was a good ending to Raw. I mean, it puts you out with a smile.
I dare say it was one of the best endings to Raw we've had in a while.
Considering what they were saying about Raw being rewritten at the very last instant.
Yeah, if you believe rumor innuendo, apparently Raw is, ever since Paul Heyman has been taken out as executive director, apparently the creative forces behind Raw are in somewhat disarray. I guess that's the best way to put it, right?
Just a little.
Just a little. You're right. I mean, written, we didn't even know matches until I think I heard maybe at best 2 hours before on air.
But
I'm okay with. I don't really look at.
I was surprised that people cared that much to see who was going to be featured on Raw before it started. I guess a promo is a promo, right? Promotion, advertisement is advertisement. But for me, It's just I'm already going to watch, so I really don't care. So it's just I don't need that extra incentive.
Right.
But I guess when it is somebody like The Rock, yes, I will make more of an effort to tune in.
and I think that's the thing is how much does promoting a match or two matches or whatever mean to whether you watch Monday Night Raw or you watch, I don't know what else is on Monday nights outside of Monday Night Football, which will be coming up next week. Thank God. Well, in fact, we had BYU Navy college football, but it was a blowout anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I was going to say it's the NBA playoffs. I'm not watching
NBA playoffs.
I'm not
that's
watch
right.
Anything over the playoffs.
Right. Plus, you have the NHL playoffs. So,
go Stars.
Interesting.
Let me ask you this, Stu.
Yes.
I don't necessarily mean to bogart the whole WWE section, but I felt this was important. How do you feel about the fact that these wrestlers are technically still independent contractors, but now are no longer able to make the extra money on the side via Cameo, via Twitch?
We've heard. This again. We say this. We say Ramiro because we don't really do a lot of. We try to focus on the in-ring, but there are times when some stories just have to be addressed. So there was. When did it come out? Friday, maybe?
I'm not sure exactly on the date, but sometime
it was Friday.
Past week.
I think it was Friday or Saturday. There was an edict apparently from Vince to everybody on the WWE roster that said a WWE wrestler cannot put themselves out on whether it's Twitch or TikTok or whatever. Can't use any other third party whatever, where they're using their ring name or they're using their real name. Can't do it. So apparently that has been walked back a couple times. To now, it's basically as long as you use your real name, you're okay. But if you use your ring name, it's no go.
Wow. See, the WWE, I thought they were going to go in a completely different direction. Now that you bring up that news, I'm almost kind of like saddened by the WWE's lack of what's Vince's word here? Grapefruits?
Yes.
Because no, and don't
or
get
as
me
Mick
wrong.
Foley says, testicular fortitude.
There you go. But don't get me wrong. I'm all for the worker. I always want the worker to get the best deal in any situation, whether you work in an office, whether you work in a warehouse, or whether you are a professional wrestler. But what I thought was going to happen was the WWE was going to make their own live streaming service as incentive to put on WWE Network that you would pay, and then, you know, they would renegotiate the deal with their quote-unquote workers.
Yeah, that's
So
probably,
they-
even if that was going to happen, they're not going to renegotiate.
But they just
And that was one of the big, sticking points. Was you heard a lot of wrestlers basically saying, "Oh, hell no, I'm not giving up my Twitch channel. I'm not giving up my TikTok."
But see, they wouldn't have to do that if the WWE had their own version of that. And that's what I thought the WWE was going to do here. And that's why they brought it up. One, well, let me walk it back just a tad.
Okay.
First, I thought they thought this through and were like, look, we've already had enough employees, quote unquote, get in trouble via these, DMs or any other ways to interact with their fans. We just saw him wrestle right now. People are still disappointed that he's up there.
You're talking about Velveteen Dream?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, him and others, right? So, considering what happened, I figured that was just their way to kind of cover their own tail.
So, you're saying that's why they were doing this?
That makes the most sense to me. It's like, okay, so there was a possibility of this being true. It was still allegations, right?
Right.
But it was going to look really bad for the company if it is true. And this is something that they can be totally monitoring. Like, it can be written into anybody's contract where they would monitor
I get
your
what you're
social
saying.
media.
I get what you're saying. I think you might have been in the minority thinking that. I think most everybody thought it was WWE trying to clamp down on their quote independent contractors.
No, I just thought that they were just trying to clamp down on their independent contractors in lieu of situations like that. And then because they were like, oh, we're going to make our own version of these things that our employees, quote unquote, are making money off of already.
But they're not employees. Let's remember that. They're independent contractors. And the notion that came across was that, yes, WWE was going to make money off of it because right now they're not.
Well, yeah.
AJ Styles WWE does not get money for AJ Styles' Twitch channel.
No, but
and AJ Styles tends to maybe say some things, and we're not talking about the speaking out movement. We're talking about stuff like his disdain for Paul Heyman because of what happened to Gallows and Anderson.
Well, yeah.
So this was kind of like,
expected.
yeah. And I get that. I don't know how I feel about it. I can see both sides. I'm going to lean with the wrestlers.
Yeah, I always want what's best for them.
Because whatever they can get, have them get it. And WWE is a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company. I'm not going to worry too much about whether Lana gets money from something that WWE doesn't have its hands in.
Again, Stu, I'm just trying to say, like, if they were going to make such a power move, I had assumed that they were going to be like, hey, guys, the reason we're kicking you off of these platforms is because we have our own version of WWE Twitch, and we have our own version of WWE TikTok in the works that we're going to put you on. And we have our own version of WWE so-and-so that's going to stream on the network. And we need you to make more content to stream on the network because the network is still kind of bare.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. I just don't think that's what was going on. But it may be. Who knows?
Would you be surprised?
Would I be surprised?
It's like the Death Star rising. Doom, doom.
I don't know. I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach. I don't know what to think.
Because that would make independent contractor and employee seem really blurry, just like heel and face.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, guess what? We got events to talk about this weekend in independent wrestling. So we'll talk about those next on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. I just realized we ran. So there's a couple other things. Do we want to do a quick podcast only segment? Because there's some stuff I wanted to get to we didn't.
Sure.
Let's do that. Let me find a suitable rejoin real quick. YouTubers. Talk to the YouTubers while I'm working on.
Are you watching NXT right now, YouTube?
Yeah, by the way, congratulations, Finn Balor, the new NXT champion.
What did I tell you?
So
he actually ended up winning it after all.
And did you see the? I mean, I have the audio down, but did you see in the backstage where they had it was Triple H came over and gave the old bro handshake to Finn Balor, and then Adam Cole came over, two sweeted each other, and I didn't hear much. Oh, here's speaking of Adam Cole, we have anonymous blonde girl.
It's not the girl from the Bachelorette.
No, that's not. No, she's too busy tending to Ivar's injuries. Did you see that?
Yeah.
And I was going to mention that. Let's see. I was going to go with. No, there was someone else I was going to go with. Let's go this one. We'll use this. Do this. That is that undisputed? Are we still undisputed? I don't know. I wonder what that means for Undisputed Era. So, all right, let's do podcast only.
This is James J. Dillon, the leader of the original Four Horsemen and the holder of 2 Hall of Fame rings, and you're listening to the Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling podcast only segment because, we got into this whole, WWE doesn't want their people on Twitch and TikTok, and there's some other stuff we wanted to talk about. To sum it up, and I was thinking about, I was watching the clock, so I was trying to wrap the segment up. Basically, what I was saying is, I don't see this as some sort of noble, hey, you're doing bad stuff on these channels. We want you to do it for us, and you're going to get the same money. No, I didn't see it that way.
Oh, there was nothing noble about it. It was all about covering their own tail. He's like, we are a publicly traded company. We don't want our quote-unquote employees to do stupid things that we should be able to control. And their social media being one of them, because that is how these interactions happen.
Well, no, it's not their social media. We're not talking about like Facebook and Twitter.
No,
and Instagram.
I know.
We're talking about again, Twitch, TikTok.
Which is part of the social media atmosphere.
What's the other? There's another
Cameo.
Yeah, that's another one.
We too can pay $150 to have one of them do an intro for us.
Yes, we could, but I'd rather just find them somewhere random and have them just record it. I thought it was more of a. I don't think it was. I think it's a little more than. Our people are going out there and they're unfiltered. And they're not saying it's not that they're saying stuff that's illegal, or that we're not talking like some sort of sexual. What am I saying? Sexual misconduct. It's simple as there was the rumor going around. Although I think Miro, the former Rusev, shot this down. There was a rumor going around that Lana had gotten some deal with Bang Energy Drink by herself, and on whether it's on Instagram or TikTok or whatever.
Probably
and
TikTok.
Apparently Vince got wind of this, got mad, said, "Okay, superstars, you're not doing this anymore." which if that's the case, and if Miro says it's not, then I'll take his word for it. But if that was the case, then quite frankly, screw Vince.
Well, and
I would dare say, I would dare WWE to try to control it.
I don't think it would be very difficult for them to enforce, actually, Stu. And I don't.
There's always financial stuff. I mean, I get the breach contract and all that good stuff.
Yeah, but it's just it comes down to a simple matter of the reason why these people are paying them on Cameo to do these introductions, or the reason why they're being followed on Twitch and are able to get to that sponsored status on Twitch where they are a preferred streamer and make money off of their streams, is because in most cases, I'm sure AJ Styles could have done this before WWE, but I feel that in most cases, you can argue that the reason that these people are tuning in, man, to be honest, I can't even tell you Lana's real first name. CJ, right?
CJ Perry.
They're not tuning in to see CJ
Perry. They're tuning in to see Lana. I get that. I totally get that. And
that
there's a little bit of that where it's like, okay, yeah, in that case, you do owe WWE something. But you and I both know, if that's what they do, fine. Let's see when that contract comes up and how fast they, or slow, they avoid re-signing, because they know they can go off and do their own thing and go work in AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact, whatever.
Oh, and definitely so. I'm not taking that away from any worker. Again, I want what's best for the worker in the end of all of this.
Right.
But I do understand where the WWE has a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
Where, like, hey, if it's Xavier Woods' video game channel, I'm not necessarily tuning in to see.
See that, and there's a little bit, because WWE. Well, first of all, on his video game channel, he's gone by Austin Creed. He's not using. He hadn't. Now WWE decided, let's fold that in, and it'll be beneficial for both of us. And in that sense, that's what's happened. And I'm good with that. That's fine.
Yeah, that's why I assumed that everything was going to
totally collaborative. That's fine. But again, if and see there, that's where you were talking about. They've got a name because of WWE. You're starting to get more and more of the wrestlers that had personas prior to signing with WWE. When I think of AJ Styles, I don't think WWE. I think New Japan. I think Impact.
Well, yeah.
Yes, he's been in WWE now for, let's see, was it 4.5 years? But he had, prior to that, he had 12 years with Impact.
Yeah, totally understandable.
So that's and I get what you're saying, and I totally understand that. I think that WWE has to be careful with that because of certain wrestlers that were popular prior to them signing with New York, as the old timers would say.
Oh, and I definitely agree. I was just saying that yes, AJ does have an abundance of fans prior to his tenure to WWE, but that's where they're making the argument. It's like, hey, we gave you a much bigger audience to work in front of, and you converted them into fans. Great. So where's our cut?
Yeah. Well, see, in that case, if it's just where's our cut, I'm going.
This is the tale as old as time when it comes to professional wrestling.
It is.
It
goes back
wanting a cut.
It's that age-old debate. Promoters wanting the cut. Wrestlers are independent contractors. What gives? So I totally get that. So we've had the heel turn. Cedric Alexander, that's been telegraphed forever and ever, turned heel, joined Hurt Business. It's, they had that little interaction between him and Shelton Benjamin where made it seem like maybe this was going to be a swerve, but in the end it wasn't. He's really with it, which I'm fine. I'm fine with it. That's fine. It is one less babyface that they've got in their roster, which is already thin with baby faces. And I know Cedric Alexander's not a main eventer, so whatever. What?
I got it. Because I know what you were going to say about the heels and the baby faces.
Yes. What?
Right? That they're still like less baby faces.
Oh, yeah. It's almost 2-1
Okay.
if you look at the rosters.
So I thought about this really hard.
Okay.
So sit with me on this one just real quick. Basically, the 1980s in professional wrestling that you recall,
yes.
I feel is more like a 1980s action movie. Like there's a really clear and definitive line between who is the bad guy and who is the good guy,
yes.
right? In those type of
yes.
films. But as we progress throughout cinema and throughout time, that line continues to get blurred. And I feel that now professional wrestling, it really is just kind of magnifying what we see in today's media, because just like in real life, it's not so cut and dry, good and bad. There's a lot of gray area in between.
I get that, and and I had to talk with a couple people that are quite knowledgeable with wrestling, both then and now. I totally get that. I know that it's gray, whatever. With the like go back to the NWO, they were cool, but they were still heels, but they were cool, and you wanted to cheer them because they were cool, because they were anti-establishment, whatever. I get that. I totally get that. I'm just of the, and I put this out on Twitter Monday night, and someone actually, I should find it, but I'll look at it. Basically what they said was, at the end, and I think I had mentioned this before, I get gray, but you can't have everybody gray. It's like, well then, okay, so what? It would be just as bad as having everybody baby faces or everybody heels. Because then it's like, okay, why should I cheer? And I will theorize this. I think this has hurt WWE's potential to make that next big star, because we don't have it, because we're too busy worrying about that gray thing, and we want them all heels, and we want them all, we don't want the good guy and everything. And and again, this is totally my opinion. And again, it's it might be old man yelling at the cloud. I still believe in its base foundation, pro wrestling still has to be good guy versus bad guy, because otherwise, why am I cheering and why am I watching? And it's not just because of the athletics. The story has got to be there.
Well, yes, there does have to be a story, but it can also kind of parlay into that 1980 storytelling, where it's like, okay, I'm going to root for this guy because he's from my home country of the United States and he's fighting the foreigner. And it's just very basic 1980 storytelling that was right. And it didn't go beyond that. So I also feel that you can root for somebody, even if they're a bad guy, because you like them, because of what they do. And then you hate the other person just because of simply how they respond. And in a weird roundabout way, that kind of determines not necessarily who's your heel or who your face, but actually in a really roundabout way, that will determine who your face is, because that eventually is who the crowd likes, and that's who will be pushed.
But if they're all gray, how's the crowd going to like one person over the other?
They just choose. It's like we can get a hamburger from
you and I both know they're not going to choose the same person.
Yeah, exactly. But there's going to be enough that will gravitate towards one. It's like, okay, we can get a hamburger from anywhere, right? But for some reason, McDonald's sells the most.
Right.
Yeah.
Although I'll still go with Dan's, but that's a whole nother day.
Oh yeah, and I hit up Top Notch.
And I get
Shout
you.
out to the local stuff.
Hey, Top Notch, absolutely.
I love Dan's though too, man. I was just shouting out Austin.
What's the movie? Damn. Matthew McConaughey. Top Notch. They go to Top Notch.
Yeah,
Dazed and Confused. Thank you. Man. Oh, it's driving me nuts. Speaking of people we don't know, I promised I would not say their name until they actually did something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give them credit. Retribution spoke.
This Thunderdome is only a facade. Behind this mountain of screens is the same foundation, the same WWE as before, the same behemoth who discarded and disowned us, leaving us to survive in an unfair world where the powerful continue to grow while we are left to feed on nothing but the scraps of contempt.
But content is a powerful motivator. We are driven to destroy, to lay waste to every superstar and every fan. Blinded, you cannot see what you do not have. So the locust of content will feed upon all of you. The darkness of retribution will seep into the pores of every superstar and all of your so-called universe. We are Retribution.
What?
Retribution, the 1990s called. They want their angst back.
I think there's plenty of millennial
That
angst
was-
for everyone.
That was. I heard somebody say this and I loved it. That's like the 90s goth teen typing up something on MySpace.
For real, I was like, who talks like this?
Well, as Simon Miller told us, nobody.
Yeah, who writes this stuff?
Again, World Wrestling Entertainment, a publicly traded, multi-billion-dollar entertainment corporation, and this is the best they can come up with?
Well, I mean, they are working a little short-handed in the middle of a pandemic, so yes, this is the best they can come up with.
I could find 10 kids down at UT campus that could do better than this. Hell, I'll call Max and Biz from Inspire. They'll give you better than this.
That's true. They'll give you something
You
creative.
have got to be joking me. And oh, by the way, all this about locus of contempt and whatever, yeah, as long as it's just on Raw. So we don't care about, so SmackDown's okay? We're not worried about SmackDown. Or maybe that's when their mom can't drive them in the minivan.
So you're saying it's the best friends or what?
No. That would, no. Best friends are cool. That's not, no, we're not talking Trent's mom, Sue. This is more like, and not to mention, it was just one segment. So if they're going to do all this, we're going to whatever, they can only do one segment. What happened? Curfew hit? They got to go do their trig homework?
I don't think they're necessarily kids.
We know they're not. In fact, so on the YouTube video, when they put it on YouTube, you could see they darkened it more. Mm-hmm. But on the live broadcast on USA Network, it was pretty obvious who at least two of them were.
And they were?
Do you want me to spoil it? Okay.
Yeah.
The tall one had to have been Donovan Dijakovic.
Okay.
Or Dominic Dijakovic. I almost talking about old names. Donovan Dijak, whatever.
Yeah.
So that had to be one of them. And there was a girl on the left-hand side whose eyes screamed Mia Yim.
Okay. I can see that working.
Now, again, are these the ones that we're going to see when they finally unmask? Because if it is, oh God, it's not going to be good, because that's just, I mean, this thing's going to be a letdown. I would say there are probably three people on the face of the earth that they could, reveal that it would actually be something to pay attention to. Outside of that, if it's anybody that is currently on the roster, even Ciampa, it's going to be a disappointment because Ciampa's not going to be on NXT because, get his retribution against Karrion Kross. And Ciampa doesn't need to be part of Retribution. Or Gargano. It's not going to be Gargano. Gargano's on NXT.
Well, what you had to say did make me think. It's like, oh, what wrestlers would I want to see to make it worthwhile?
We've heard all the theories about it's ones that got cut during that Black Wednesday in what was it, May or June or whatever. Problem is, most of the bigger names have already signed somewhere else, either with AEW or Impact.
Yeah.
So outside of, I would say, Rusev, who has said he's not wrestling, and he's not going to give up his Twitch channel because he's doing quite well with it. I would say outside of him, nobody else. It's not going to make that big of a difference.
What about Imperium? I know those people didn't have necessarily a English accent or any foreign accent.
No, it's not going to be Imperium because Imperium NXT UK is about to ramp back up because they've got that new. They're going to do tapings at the BT Sports Studio there in the UK, and oh, by the way, Walter is still the NXT UK champion. So it's not Imperium.
It would be nice though.
But then why not just bring him out as Imperium?
Yeah, I don't think enough people here have seen NXT UK.
Okay, so you're going to put them in masks, but you still have to eventually reveal them.
Yes.
And once you reveal them, it's still Imperium.
Yes. Unless you just keep them in masks the whole time.
No, you can't do that because it's.
I mean, it worked for the Dark Order.
Except we've seen their faces. They've only put the mask on during the matches.
Well, yeah.
Except for 5 and 10.
Exactly.
Like Silver and Reynolds, they don't wear their mask all the time.
No.
Uno wears a mask all the time. He's the only one that wears a mask. Stu Grayson doesn't wear a mask. Brody sure as hell doesn't wear a mask, and he needs to. No, I'm just kidding. By the way, I know it's not going to happen, but Dustin Rhodes, I hope you get that TNT title and put a knot on Brody's head.
I could totally see him winning it.
That'd be awesome.
That makes total sense.
We'll throw a pizza party for Dustin if that happens. So, couple other things. During the 8-man tag on Raw, Ivar did his, dive onto the floor, and you could see they cut away pretty quickly. But right before they cut away, you could see him throwing up the X, saying, "Hey, I'm hurt."
Mm-hmm.
So, the official word from WWE was that it was a cervical injury. We've also heard it's a stinger. Either way, sounds like it's not too terribly serious. He will be fine. He should be back pretty soon. So,
well, I hope so.
Best wishes to Ivar from War Machine Viking Raiders. So, best wishes to him for a full recovery. And have you seen the new Broken Skull sessions?
No.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, the new Broken Skull sessions with Jerry the King Lawler. If you have not seen it, you need to see it. Some really good stuff, like how he ended up with the cape and the crown. I'm not going to spoil it for you. You need to watch it. But there's that. There he talks about the work with Andy Kaufman during the early 80s, all the way through the appearance on Letterman. He even talks about doing the movie with Jim Carrey. That's an interesting story. I'll give you a slight little spoiler. Apparently, Jim Carrey didn't like him. or Lawler didn't know what to make of Carrey.
Well, yeah.
And that was, I think that movie was kind of the start of Jim Carrey. I don't know if it's not the wrong thing to say is taking himself too seriously, but that was kind of the start of him not even going off the deep end, just not being Jim Carrey. I'll just say that. So anyway, check that out on the WWE Network. A fantastic conversation. Didn't realize that Stone Cold was such a big fan of Lawler, but he was. Very cool.
It makes total sense though, considering like that they would have crossed paths during that USWA time.
That's true. When USWA took over at the Sportatorium, when World Class folded.
By the way, do you know what the last match from the Sportatorium under the WCCW
It would have been
was?
Eric Embry versus P.Y. Chuhai.
Oh my God! Yes, it is. How
Yeah.
did you know that?
I watched it live because that's when
You watched it live?
Eric Embry tore down the World Class banner when he won.
Yeah.
And everybody was cheering, and I'm trying to figure out, why are you cheering?
Yeah.
World Class is dead.
You saw that live?
I didn't see it in person, but I saw it on TV. I saw it when it happened.
Okay, but you saw it on TV.
Yeah,
the day
that was
it
like
happened.
late 80s. Yeah,
Well, 1990.
99.
And the only reason I know that is because I happened to see it on YouTube today.
Yeah.
And it was just like some random episode, and they basically recap. And this episode goes into great detail. They basically just recap how it happened.
Yeah.
But I was like, that was the last match under the WCCW banner. I thought they would go out with at least a Von Erich, but no.
There weren't any left.
I thought Kevin was
Sadly.
still around.
Kevin was still around. Kerry was in New York. Let's see. Mike was gone.
Because I think Kevin wrestles on that card, but I figured he would have been the guy that closed it out.
No, yeah, he didn't. Embry was the big star.
Really? Was it that over?
Kind of. I mean, it's you have to kind of it's relative because, you know, by that time the crowds had dwindled so far down because the Von Erichs were pretty much gone except for Kevin. So, yeah, I mean, he was the light heavyweight champ. That was when World Class created the light heavyweight championship, and I think he held that belt for a while.
Wow.
He's been at the Hall of Fame a couple times, I know, because I've seen pictures. I think he still lives in the area, or at least, you know, in Texas. So hopefully the next time we do induction weekend, hopefully he can make it.
But what was the big deal with P.Y. Chuhai? Like,
why was he the heel?
Well, I know why
he was the heel.
Well, yes, I know why he was the heel, but like, what's his deal? Like, where did he come from? Like, how did he even get into the situation where he's the closeout to represent?
I'll be honest, I don't remember the whole story. I want to say,
yeah, because they said if he won, that they would retain the WCCW name, right?
Yes.
So how is the heel that's being managed by Tojo Yamamoto, who obviously, even though he has like a Chinese name, is wearing Japanese tights?
Right.
Like, yeah, I was just like, okay, I get it. It's 1980s one, but how come this guy gets selected to represent WCCW?
It may have been. I'll have to go back and watch it. I don't remember exactly if it
I was just
maybe
hoping you knew. That's why
I don't. I've slept since then, drank since then. I think it maybe it was it investors, like an evil corporation of some sort, or am I crossing that with Newhart?
I think that's the ending to Newhart's too.
Best series finale ever. To this day, I will still say that.
Really?
When they wake up in the old Bob Newhart show bedroom with Suzanne Plachette as his wife, that was the best ending ever.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Yeah. Oh, it was fantastic. But I watched the old Bob Newhart show as a kid. So, all right. So we're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, we get to do something we don't get to do very often. Tell you what's happening in independent wrestling this weekend. We'll have that next. Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
All right. You think the big guys need to stop doing dives?
I've heard that. I've heard talk about that. I've heard, whether it's Keith Lee or, whatever. It doesn't matter whether I think they should or not. They're going to. I'm not going to say no, they shouldn't. I'm going to say everyone that does a dive needs to be careful. Find a way to be more careful. Find a way to better protect yourself so that things like what happened to Matt Hardy don't happen.
Honestly, the thing with Matt Hardy, it was just the tables. Like, those things slip. It's really hard to...
Well, it wasn't just the table. It was... They overshot it. It was obvious. Yeah. They overshot. So... but was that spot needed for that story? we've always heard from Johnny Mantel and Kay. If you're going to do a spot like that, there's got to be a why. If there's not a why, then why are you doing the spot?
I thought they were just doing all this stuff because of the rule stipulation, and like it's already been a really brutal,
right? Well,
and bloody feud,
right?
So,
well, and that's the thing. It was last man standing. Fall. Kind of a falls count anywhere.
And that wasn't going to be the ending.
No, the ending was Sammy going off the whatever onto the platform, which was it was obvious there was a crash pad.
But like it seems like that spear through the tables would have been enough to win one of those type of matches.
You would think.
But I guess that's the story he was trying to tell, that he was more powerful, that it was going to take something much more devastating to finish off Broken Matt.
I guess. So we'll find out tomorrow. He's supposed to be on Dynamite tomorrow. So we'll find out. Excuse me. Let's see. What else? Anything else I miss? That's it. Let's do the six. We got, 7? Hold on, let me do this. Let me check this. So we have to get out in 6 minutes. All right, here we go. Let's go by cruise.
This is Ring of Honor ring announcer Bobby Cruz, and you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons. I miss Bobby.
I do.
I love Bobby to death.
I miss having Ring of Honor being able to swing through Texas.
I know.
But, it's just one of those things.
They did their tapings. In fact, they've released the bracket for the Pure Championship Tournament. As I pull it up real quick, here we go. The bracket, they've got 2 blocks, just like what you would see in New Japan. Jay Lethal taking on Dalton Castle. David Finlay taking on Rocky Romero. Silas Young taking on Fred Yehai. Williams. Who's Williams? Tracy Williams taking on R. Taylor. I'm trying to remember who R. Taylor is. Anyway, so that's Block A. Block B, Jonathan Gresham taking on Yuta. Delirious taking on Matt Sydal. Matt Sydal showing up on 2 different promotions. Very good. And then Josh Woods taking on Kenny King. And PJ Black taking on Tony Deppen. So that's where the tournament will start. And we'll see what happens when Ring of Honor comes back to TV. Guess what? We've got independent wrestling to talk about this weekend, so that sounds so good. We will start right here in Austin. AAPW, America's Academy of Pro Wrestling, will have live wrestling Saturday at the AAPW Arena, 1702 Aldridge, Suite A2. Bell time, 8 p.m. El Rayo will defend the America's title against T-Ray. Benjamin Greenback defends the social media championship against Leroy Brown. Bert Vixen will put up her women's championship against Jasmine Allure. As we said, it'll be at AAPW Arena. Masks required, social distancing encouraged. If you can't make it out there, catch it on the AAPW channels on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Oh, by the way, I'll be there lending commentary. So that's AAPW Saturday night here in Austin. Metroplex Wrestling presents Thunder Saturday at the MPX Arena in Bedford. Bell time, 8 p.m. Dave Sayan, Stephen Kirby, Jackson Stone, Ashton Jacobs, among those scheduled to appear. That's Metroplex Wrestling Saturday in Bedford. Sword Championship Wrestling presents Undeniable Saturday at the Kaufman Leadership Academy in Cleburne. Bell time, 7:30 p.m. Dean Fleming, Danny Brown Jr., and Damian Daystar among those scheduled to appear. That's Solar Championship Wrestling Saturday in Cleburne. And Reality Wrestling presents Back to the Drive-In, one of their great drive-in shows, Saturday in the parking lot at World Gym Arena in Texas City. Bell time 8 p.m. Ruthless Ryan Davidson, Will Alday, Cam Cole, Alex Gracia among those scheduled to appear, along with Brad Gilmore and Booker T doing commentary. That's Reality Wrestling Saturday night in Texas City, and that's a look at independent wrestling around the area. If you feel like it, get out, support these shows, support independent wrestling.
You're not going to say anything about my shirt, which has now become a collector's item, apparently?
It has become a collector's item. If you have not seen it, Inspire Pro Wrestling is no longer. It is now Inspire AD for After Dark. They put out the flyer, and they will be coming back in 2021. I say they. I can say we. I'm part of the crew, being the color commentator. Inspire AD. I'm excited. I'm really excited, just for the sake of having them back. I have missed them so much. I've missed being with Eamon, doing the call on all the matches. Effie is still our pure prestige champion. We still got Luigi Primo as our Inspire Pro champion, or I guess now Inspire AD champion.
Well, I was going to say, I'm not even sure what the belts are going to be called yet. So
we'll see. We shall see. So also, New Japan Pro Wrestling Fighting Spirit Unleashed Night 2 will be this Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on NJPW World. The card looks like this. Rocky Romero will take on Danny Limelight. The tag team of TJP and ACH taking on Logan Regal and Adrian Quest. David Finlay and PJ Black will face the Guerrillas of Destiny. And for the right to face the IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion Jon Moxley, Jeff Cobb will face Kenta. Right now, Kenta has that right. Jeff Cobb is going to try to win it from him. That should be a hell of a match.
So unfair. They should just let Kenta have it.
I know. And that'll do it for this week's Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. You can follow Justin Smash Simmons on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at The Smash Simmons. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Stu Myrick. That's STEWMYRICK. Follow the show on Twitter at SGTWATX. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. We are proud to be the official broadcast partner of the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and we're proud to be part of the great lineup you hear every day on the flagship station for the Texas Longhorns and your radio home in Austin for the Dallas Cowboys. We are The Horn. Catch us Wednesday nights on The Horn, or catch us anytime on demand by going to hornfm.com, click on the On-Air tab, or by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast platform. Our thanks to Jon Alba for joining us, and our thanks to you for giving us some of your time tonight. For Justin, I'm Stu. We will see you at the matches.
Goodbye and good night. Bang!
And there we go. Nice job. Nice show.
Nice.
Anything we miss? As we got NXT on a screen right here in front of us, and it's Mercedes Martinez taking on Rhea Ripley. Robert Stonebrand is outside. It's a cage match. Ooh, they're doing a cage match. How wonderful.
Well, they're really pushing this whole Super Tuesday concept, but there's a really good opportunity for them to stay on Tuesday nights, apparently.
I was just about to ask you. So, the debate has been raging. I'm not going to hold my breath on them moving NXT to Tuesdays, but do you agree with me that it would benefit both them and AEW?
Oh, everybody knows it would.
I mean, if you've seen the ratings that have come out last week,
mm-hmm.
NXT had like close to 1 million.
Yeah, I mean, it helped both companies.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, AEW had close to 1 million. I mean, and NXT hasn't. I want to say the last time they had 1 million may have been their debut back in October.
Yeah. I mean,
or September, I guess.
Everybody has a different ideology when it comes to business. And sometimes the best business practices aren't necessarily practice because of egos.
Yes.
But in this case, you can clearly see that there's no necessity for a Wednesday night war, so to speak. And if anything, there's no sense of putting like the C show going against Dynamite. It's kind of unfair to NXT and their audience that is so torn between the two brands, because you see like the majority of the crossover between those two. So sometimes the best thing that you can do, and I guess this works out for many aspects in life, is like, don't worry about the competition. Worry about yourself. If you can get more viewers by doing this, do what's good for you.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. We know that there's going to be a pride thing, and you know, not only them, but there will be those fans that say, well, WWE ran away from the war, yada, yada. No. It's called, look, it's just a smarter move. And then they can both win, and we can enjoy both products, which are great. Now, if NXT could find a way to get a, main event babyface that we can believe in, but still, I think it's not a bad idea. Now, it's going to hurt Impact. Yeah. Because, everybody tunes into NXT, Impact comes on at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on Access TV.
But I'm sure that they are smart, and if Access is smart, they will look to move that to a open night to not have to go against the behemoth that is WWE. And aren't they on good working terms?
Who?
Impact and WWE?
I think there's at least some sort, because, they've borrowed footage, especially WWE, borrowed footage when it came to AJ and Kurt Angle and Sting and a few others. I think primarily those. They haven't done anything like, say, with Robert Roode or anybody else that came through the Impact, came through TNA and Impact. But still, I
thought you were going to call it the Impact Zone. And
the Impact Zone.
You're more than welcome to call it that.
Yeah, they haven't had an Impact Zone in quite some time. I guess where they are now, you could kind of call it an Impact Zone, even though there's nobody in there. But yeah, I think wrestling fans would obviously win. I think everybody would win. Then again, it was originally planned that AEW was going to be on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
But TNT said, let's do Wednesdays instead. My guess is because the NBA schedule in the fall, TNT has the Tuesday games.
Mm-hmm.
So Wednesday meant less preemptions, which, again, makes sense. You don't have to worry about that with USA outside of, say, the Olympics. I think that's about the only time they show some Premier League, right? But that's Saturday mornings. We wouldn't care about that.
Every now and then. But what about Westminster?
I thought that was on. No, that moved to NBC, like NBCSN or something like that.
Really? Man.
I want to say, or Bravo. NBC Universal has multiple networks. They can put Westminster on anything.
I was like, I miss the days where Raw used to get preempted for
well, especially during the Monday Night Wars. Because that meant you got to see both of them without DVRing it or taping it. At that time, it was tape. It wasn't. It was the VCR. It wasn't DVR. So, yeah, you miss those days. So, yeah, I think they should strongly consider it. Some I did not put out, and I'll put it on a tweet. Fight TV gave us a couple of codes. And I got to pull it up. It's for an event. Let's see. There he is. It is the Warrior Wrestling Stadium Series. It is this Saturday. And I'd have to look up the event. I know some big names will be appearing. I think Thunder Rosa will be there. I think a few others. Warrior Wrestling, one of the stronger independent promotions in the country. So we will put those on Twitter. It'll be the same as what we usually do. Find the tweet. We'll pin it to the top of our profile. Follow us. Follow Fight TV. While you're at, follow Warrior Wrestling. Mm-hmm. Like and retweet the tweet. And we'll pick a winner, I would say, let's say Saturday at noon Central.
So for everybody still listening, you still got a chance right now.
Yeah. Well, it hadn't been put up yet. So just keep an eye on our Twitter page at SGTWATX. I'll get that up sometime tomorrow,
And you're gonna make them wait. See,
Yeah.
At least you're ahead of the game, so expect.
Well,
it.
I just got it like a couple hours ago, so
it's
I was
fresh.
actually I was trying to get the United Wrestling Network, primetime live thing that they're going to do with the NWA. It starts. Is it next week? They're going to do the pay-per-views. So this will be kind of the next chapter of the NWA, going back to their UWN roots, going back, Dave Marquez and the folks there at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. So I keep seeing texts coming up on my laptop, which means let's see, what was this? Yes, it's by the way, this is a great week. You know why? It's game week. Like yesterday, got the depth chart for the Longhorns.
Oh, yeah.
We got football.
See, it's just
and the NFL.
Yeah, I'm more excited about the fact that the Cowboys are coming back.
Yes, and I have the depth chart for Cowboys and Rams. Sunday night football.
Man, is that the game?
Sunday night.
But the game's in L.A.
Yes, the game's L.A. I'm not going to games this year. They are severely restricting media at AT&T Stadium because of COVID, which makes all the sense in the world. And quite honestly, I'm not sure I want to risk it. I'm going to be doing enough as it is with Lake Travis. In fact, Bucky Godbolt called me the other night, going, "Hey, what's going to happen?" And I said, "I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but." Lake Travis starts their season October 1st, Thursday night against Westwood.
Well, I mean,
somewhere in Round Rock ISD, either at Dragon Stadium in Round Rock or at the Palace on Palmer, just down the road from the Sports Guys Talking Wrestling Worldwide headquarters.
Well, the important thing is that the people that are playing need to follow the UIL protocol setup.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, even Todd Dodge came out and said it this week. Like, if the fans don't follow the protocol, now the ones that are getting to attend games, then the 5A and 6A schools don't even get a chance.
Start. Right.
And don't get me wrong. I'm not being pragmatic about this. I'm being realistic because while it's going to hurt narcissistically, while it may hurt some kids' future, and while it might hurt some parents' feeling that they cannot go see their kid, it hurts my bottom line because that's how I make a living.
You don't.
So,
yes.
I need games.
You lose out on some money, as do I. I mean, it's not my full-time job, thankfully, but yeah, that's a little bit of change I lose out if the Horn does not air Lake Travis football. So, but anyway, so that's coming up. Longhorns and UTEP this Saturday. I think it's 7 p.m. on Longhorn Network, which means 6 p.m. on Longhorn Radio Network. That includes the Horn, Coke FM, the Bat. Not the Bat. Bat is, I think Bat we do Spanish. That's the Spanish broadcast. With Dr. Ruben Pizarro, my dear friend.
Oh, for real? Nice.
Love Dr. Pizarro. He and I get to hang out together at COTA during like F1 and those races. I've known Dr. Pizarro for at least a decade.
Wow.
He's a wonderful man. Good stuff. Also, I am going to be involved. So if you have not heard, those of you who don't know, I am on the board of directors for the Austin chapter of the NFL Alumni, and the chapter has partnered with the Horn, and we're going to start doing these sessions for like Sunday night football and I think Thursday night football as well, where it will be either Brad Kellner or Aaron Hogan with one of our members or a member of the NFL Alumni. So this first one is Sunday with Cowboys and Rams. It's going to be Brad Kellner and myself with Beasley Reese. He played for the Giants and others back in the day. He is the national president of the NFL Alumni.
Yeah. I remember you talking.
So I get to be involved with that, at least for this week. So I'm excited to talk to Beasley and educate everybody on what the NFL alumni does as far as caring for their own and caring for kids. So it's something I'm very proud of and looking forward to it. Also, for those of you on YouTube, you see behind me there's a different banner. In addition to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, which is on the Horn, I host a podcast with 2 lifetime Longhorns, Stevie Lee and Todd Hunt, called Longhorn Lowdown. We have conversations with legends that wore the burnt orange. We started it not too long after we started Sports Guys Talking Wrestling back in 2016. Took a bit of a hiatus because schedules and traveling. Todd lives in San Antonio and all that good stuff. Well, because one of the benefits of the pandemic is that we realized, well, we could revive this and do it on Zoom. So we have revived it. In recent weeks, we've had Chris Del Conte, the athletics director at the University of Texas, Doug English, Brian Jones, and we just had Oscar Giles, who was a teammate of Todd's. He was a defensive end great with the Longhorns back, 87 through 90, that shocked the nation tour Longhorns. He is the current defensive line coach for Texas. Coming up, we've got more coming up this week. I'm going to look at we just scheduled Fozzie Whitaker for sometime next month. Who else we got coming up? Tomorrow, Tim Crowder, Eric Metcalf will join us. Roy Williams will join us. Selvin Young, Keith and Kerry Cash. We got some pretty good guests. So check that out. Longhorn Lowdown, again, wherever you find podcasts. Or you can check out the Longhorn Lowdown channel on YouTube. Since we're doing Zoom video, decided just to put it up as a YouTube video. So you can see them there. And check it out for those of you that are Longhorn fans. Some fun conversations. We get to find out stuff like how Apples convinced Doug English to come to Texas, or how much Oscar Giles, like the rest of us, miss Players hamburgers. Let's talk about hamburgers. Players was one of the best. So check that out.
Players Lemonade, man.
Oh, their shakes. The shakes were fantastic. So that'll do it for this week. Thanks so much for joining us on YouTube. We'll be back next week. I'm going to see about getting either Max Meehan or Biss to talk about the transformation of Inspire Pro to Inspire AD, and maybe we can find out when in 2021 you get to see us and I get to get back behind the mic. So, but until then, be safe, be well, wear your mask, wash your hands. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. All right.